Mr. Doherty?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Roach?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Chairman Smith?
Here.
And let the record show Town Manager Dunham is present, as is Mr. Nazaro, their staff attorney, and myself.
Thank you, Rita. Everyone had the minutes in advance of the last meeting, the meeting in December. Does anybody have any comments, corrections, suggestions, etc. for those minutes? Not, do we have a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any comments or questions? Rita?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Does anyone have any additions, withdrawals, or deferrals, or anything that they'd like to change on the brief agenda that we have today? If not, you see the future meeting dates. They are in, I don't know if they're in this, but they're certainly in the minutes. If anyone knows that they're definitely not going to be in any of those meetings, would they let Rita know?
Yeah, I won't be here in June.
In June? Okay.
I won't be here June, July through to September.
June through September.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can defer on the public hearing portion for a minute. Any items by staff?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'll just bring you up to speed. The board asked the staff to once again bring up the construction timing and deadline issue with the town commission. And they agreed for us to look further into that. And so, which was kind of the opposite that they had discussed earlier about it. They kind of thought, well, you know, we think we've got, you know, kind of one house that kind of stirred everybody up, and so it was you know, an anomaly. But to you know, just so that it doesn't happen in the future, if we had some kind of legislation that addressed it, then maybe we wouldn't have to face it. So, you know, so they agreed for the staff to look into it again, and so Mr. Nazaro, our staff attorney, is doing that. As you know, we had already been using, as an example, the town of Palm Beach ordinance that is similar to what we're talking about. And then we also found out that there's another town that, Lighthouse Point, that also has some type of legislation that addresses that. So I'm gonna turn it over to Trey to tell you what we're doing.
I mean, we're pretty much using those two ordinances as an example of how to create something very specific for Gulfstream. You know, taking the best of both of them and throwing out what we don't really need or what doesn't apply. You know, so that will be on the agenda coming up, I think, for the February meeting for the commission.
Trey, does any of it have to do with not being able to build through the winter? You know, the country club of Florida, you can't build in the winter. In Palm Beach, can you be in construction in the winter?
They do have a
They
season
have
as well,
limited.
so they do.
They're very limited.
You can't talk work that, they're limited on
What
that.
about Lighthouse Point? They can build year-round there? Not sure yet.
I think so.
Okay.
They only have like 9 to 5 restrictions in the season, so it's a lot more liberal than here or Palm Beach.
Okay.
But again, we're sort of taking as an example the historical timeline that it's taken to build houses in Gulfstream, comparable to what Palm Beach has done. They sort of took a sample size of, based on the square footage, how long a house would take to build, and we would apply, you know, the Gulfstream figures to whatever our ordinance would be. So that would obviously take into account the seasonal restrictions.
And if they didn't finish on time, we would have some sort of penalty,
That's right. Yes, sir.
monetary penalty.
That's right. And it would be based on the square footage, and it would be like a per day penalty, which both of those ordinances and those two other municipalities have. And I've talked to Mr. Randolph, who is the county attorney for Palm Beach, and he had mentioned that substantial fines have been levied under the Palm Beach ordinance, and that is held up. So
ask a question? Are we also looking into the, when the lots, a house gets torn down?
I was just
Okay.
getting ready to
I have
ask.
to say, that was
Excellent.
my next
Oh,
thing too,
Okay,
so go ahead.
if I
Dave.
could address that, and, yes, we are, we do have an ordinance that addresses that, but this situation was so specific, our code, in my opinion, and I think maybe the attorney's opinion, didn't sufficiently, or wasn't specific enough to address this situation, because it was unusual, because, the builder of the house, of the plans that were approved was the owner, of the lot, and so they got the plans approved, and then he sold the lot and the plans with it. And the plans, had expired, there was no construction on it, within the year, so the plans had expired. They actually did pull a demolition permit, and the house was demolished on there. But we don't really have a definition of, so the timing on all this really starts when the construction starts. So does the construction start when the demolition occurred, or, because they never pulled any kind of a permit to construct the house. So what we're doing is we're tweaking the code. We have one that addresses it. But the other thing that it didn't address was irrigation. So if we're gonna require them to have either sod or seed on there, it needs to be irrigated, or it's not gonna be worth their while to do that. So we're tweaking it, and we may be ready to take that back to the commission, maybe in February.
It is
or March.
already finished and it'll be on the
Yeah,
agenda.
Are our thoughts that it should be sodded or just masked? I mean,
Well, that's a good question, because actually, I'm trying to remember.
I know the owner, and that's why I'm
That's
asking,
right, and
because
then-
he is very amenable
He
to
is,
putting up
and-
a hedge
And I talked to him, and I'm not sure, did we address somehow maybe the opportunity for them to buffer it somehow, buffer the lot with landscaping as opposed to seeding or
I
something?
don't think that we did that in the ordinance,
Okay.
we can certainly, look at that.
Yeah,
However, that still does, since it's a cove lot, it still makes it visible from the far side, so, it's up, but I think he's a reasonable person.
He is, and I've spoken to him.
Yeah,
He was actually up in the northeast when I spoke to him, but he was flying in actually to meet with his landscaper, landscape architect. And I was hoping that we would be able to meet while he was down here, but it just didn't work out, so. But that's a very good question. I don't know, what your thoughts might be about buffering it as opposed to, seeding and or sodding it.
Well, I have a few thoughts. Buffering sometimes works and then sometimes doesn't. Some of those fences are awfully ugly, in my opinion, and they get tattered and they fall.
Oh, yeah,
over.
we like buffering, we don't mean with a chain.
We're talking
this
about-
is a hedge, this would be a hedge.
A living hedge, okay. Well,
And we want to specify height probably, and it
Yeah,
needs to be irrigated and,
I think and irrigated, and I think we should be, strong on it, and like maybe, I don't know, sod versus seed, but we need to reach consensus, but they can look terrible, and for neighbors, I could just feel horrible
Yeah.
for, so I think we could be, like, strong on it, is what I'm suggesting, and
Okay.
maybe,
there's a few on A1A that are on the ocean side that look awful too. There's one next to the McGraw House with the Spear residences, nobody's done anything to that in years, it's come here, there's an approved residence for the property, it came through our
And it's-
architecture review.
probably knocking on a year also, now that
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
and there was a, plan approved for the one across from the school, same way. So anyway, our committee, I think, unanimously supports something planted with irrigation, either living hedge or sod or something.
Seed,
Yeah,
is seeding acceptable?
if it's irrigated,
I mean,
it'll
because,
grow.
well, no,
Sure, yes.
absolutely, it doesn't require that now, and so I wouldn't recommend anything that wasn't irrigated somehow.
Right.
So, now, but I believe, and I spoke to the gentleman, and he said he
one on
It's on the,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, there are other lots in
Well,
town that have.
But I would also say, be careful what you're saying seeding, because a lot of what you, that construction site is a lot of, material that isn't, have soil on it.
The grit,
It's
yeah.
the, you know, whatever that's left over when the trucks get in there and demolish, and
Right.
grass will not grow on it if you just throw a bunch of seeds down there.
Yeah.
And sodding, you know, is expensive, I imagine, you know, but, so these are things we need to think about. But I don't think it'll just throw some seeds down, it'll look great, it'll be big weeds.
Yeah, I understand.
And it'll be hard to mow too, because it'll be all,
Oh, it's all sort
it'll
of,
be graded out.
it's not as, we gotta kind of really, I think it through, if we're gonna say grade it, put a little bit of soil in it so you can have some kind of something green grow, that's one thing, but, and then, do they have to maintain it? I mean, I tell you what, sometimes these things, these
Oh,
weeds
no,
can be
that-
3 or
no,
4
I
feet
mean,
tall.
The vacant lots they have at least been mowing them, maybe not quite as often as
Okay.
if it was their yard, but
Right,
they
okay.
have been, you know, it certainly has not been
Okay.
grasses, you know, 2 feet tall, so they have been mowing them, even the ones on A1A, they
Well,
have.
I noticed that the ones on A1A, as you drive up to Palm Beach on the shore road, you know, are all grass and are all mowed and are very well kept.
They probably
Which
require
looks
that.
very nice, and you
I
know,
agree.
obviously, they're gonna be building a house there sometime when they
Right.
can sell it, but at least it is being maintained, you know, very attractively,
Right.
which I think is a benefit
Sure.
for the community.
So we have 2 things, we're working on timing of start to completion,
Right.
and also, maintenance of the vacant
Right.
property. More so even after a demolition, it really is really bad after demolition.
The issue with that is you really don't approve a demolition until you have an approved plan in place.
Right.
So this was a very unique circumstance where the plan was approved completely. The demolition permit was issued knowing that there would be a house on it. And then when it changed hands to the new owner and the new owner decided not to move forward with it, we were sort of in limbo. So that's what we're sort of changing with some of the language in the ordinance to,
Although I would
to
add,
apply.
you know, we refer to as the Cat Lady's site, the house has been demolished, thank goodness, but it's been vacant for, I could guess now, 3 months or so.
I believe that's just because of the seasonal restrictions, and as soon as the season's over, they're going to start.
Actually, my understanding is that they may be starting soon, right? That's what Ms. Lerner I heard.
They have their permits in. I mean,
Oh,
everything's ready to go.
Right.
It's in review over at Delray Beach right now. They've asked for some additional paperwork, which is kind of,
Okay, so it's just in permit
That's
review.
Oh, that's right.
it's in
So
permitting
that
over at
one,
Delray.
I'm not really as worried about that one,
Right,
because
they wanna build
I
it.
know that they wanna do
Yeah,
it.
right, okay.
for
I would
sure.
assume most people do, once it's down,
That's
there's,
right.
let's go.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Okay.
Thank you both. Anything else? We'll move back up to the public hearing portion. Rita, do you want to swear in? Well, first I should ask, is there any ex parte communication with members of the board of the town that they need to report or discuss? If not, Rita, would you administer the oath? Anyone who's going to speak?
You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
You can come forward, please.
Thank you.
Do you have a before and after, or original and then recommended change with you?
I do not, unfortunately. I have what we're proposing.
Okay.
I can explain to you what's happened. During the construction process, which sometimes happens, the contractor got a little overzealous with the demolition of landscaping on the front of the house. 3 royal palms were removed along the street, and that constituted a change that we needed to come back to. What we had originally proposed were maintaining those royal palms and planting understory trees underneath them. What we are currently proposing,
Did they move the royals, or are they just gone?
unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, they were removed. They weren't moved, they were removed.
Why,
How many were removed?
There were three, but let me explain. One, the property owner to the east actually removed an existing buffer that he had, replaced the buffer with a like material. I believe now there are fishtail palms there that are 16 or 18 feet high. I think it used to be Eureka's. It got to be unruly, so I'm not affiliated with that project, but apparently it was changed during the process. One of the royal palms that was removed was actually on his property, just east of the property line. And if you look at the tree disposition plan, you'll see that was removed by these people, not my client. But there were two royal palms that were removed on our site, a cluster of royal palms that was left on the western portion. What my client had always wanted to do, and we were attempting to do as an understory to the royal palms originally, was to plant native canopy trees along the front of the house so he could have this sort of, go underneath and through a canopy as he drove into the house. Granted, he has a short driveway. So that's the intent. What we had before was we had some matched palms that were existing coming through here, and we had a series of understory trees planted underneath them. So we had, a sort of tall clipped hedge with royal palms poking up. Now what we've got is a series of we've got a character gumbo limbo, 2 sea grapes, and a clusia specimen that we're going to bring in to sort of create that instant canopy along the road. Quite frankly, in terms of buffering the project and the roof element, given that this is a one-story house, I think what we're proposing will probably do a better job than what was there. The royal palms were 40, 50 feet tall, and frankly out of scale with a one-story house. So I'm not sure, and I can show you the elevations that we prepared to show. So you'll see as the front elevation, which you'll see in this particular case, if you can imagine originally having a series of these royals, 1, 2, and then the third one sort of on the property line over here. Excuse me. Now we have a series of trees in the foreground without those royals in the background. The back has remained virtually the same. We've added a couple of additional coconuts on the side, but that landscaping hasn't changed. This is the east side, which we've kind of shown a light buffer because there's an existing fishtail hedge, for lack of a better term, to block the house. And then on the other side too, there's an existing 8-foot ficus hedge that you can see this big green strip with some existing and proposed palms. That hasn't changed either. So really, essentially, it's just the front that's changed.
Is that a cluster of royals on the north elevation?
It is. There are probably some volunteers, and over time they've just all grown together.
All grown together, so it's one big one, it looks like.
It's one like triple trunk or something.
Okay.
Yes.
However, something that I noticed after going over and looking at this was that, first of all, the name of the road is Palm Way, and it is set off with royal palms all the way down that street, or formerly all the way down
Right.
that street. And I am very upset with the fact that those palms were taken out, and I think they should be replaced.
Yeah, I'm reacting to what has happened.
I know it
And-
happened, it wasn't your
Right.
demolition,
Right.
it was somebody else's demolition, but, that's the feeling I have. And the fact that another palm that was taken off, on someone else's property.
Well, that was done by the neighbor when he replaced his hedge. We showed it on our plans because it was so close to our property that it really affected the look. It almost anchored our property on each end with palms, even though it happened to not be on our property. So that wasn't us. But the ones on our property definitely rust.
I'm not sure that one should have been taken down either, because that whole street, as you look down that street, and obviously you have,
Yes.
you know, it is framed with royal palms all the way down.
For sure, it is for sure on the south side.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure on the north.
not so much
on the
north side, but,
Right.
to take
Yeah.
out
No, but
more is,
you're definitely correct.
I think, wrong, but that's my opinion.
Were they allowed to remove another royal on the neighbor? Are you allowed to do that?
Well, I don't think,
Not really.
I don't think the demolition team took that one.
No, I think the neighbor took it out.
Neighbor took it out.
Right, but you're asking a generic question about,
Yeah,
as a property owner, what are your restrictions in that regard?
Did that have anything to do with the location of the transformer?
Yeah, we had to put a transformer there from the undergrounding, and I think that had a lot to do with the removal of that tree. I mean, we had no other place to put it, well, trying to work with that neighbor, regarding the transformers,
Resulted in that.
resulted in
Gotcha.
that being located. It originally was gonna be on the corner, but he protested vehemently, and we needed a transformer in that area, and that was the best place that we
Oh,
could put it.
okay.
any other comments? I agree with Curtis. I think you can get royal palms. I don't know how big you can get them and move them in there.
You can get royal palm.
How's the homeowner feel about that? Are they aware that this is
Oh,
coming
yes.
back?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he actually made me aware of it when he came into town to meet with his general contractor and said, I think we have an issue here. Could you come up? And we met on site and saw that that was the case. I then went to Rita and asked her what I needed to do, and she said, submit a new set of plans with the revision, it's a substantial revision, need to go back to the board. He has always, since our first meeting, when I met with him about the original design concept, wanted to create, I don't know, if you go down Palm Way and you make a right at the corner, go all the way down to the end of the cul-de-sac, there's a house there that has a huge banyan or ficus tree. And he says, I want that look. And I said, well, unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to bring in ficus trees like that. However, we can plant trees underneath those royals, and we can allow them to become canopy and let them grow together, and you can drive through and under them. So that was the original intent. He wanted that large canopy look. It was less like the palm look in the front of the house. So he wasn't all that distraught that the palms were removed, simply because I think he preferred the canopy tree to begin with. But he was willing to accept them originally because they were there and we couldn't remove them. So that's the way we headed down that road.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so if the royals were replaced, can he still put
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
canopy
Yeah.
trees
Yeah,
in there?
that's what our original design was.
Okay.
He's gonna have an island kind of thing. He'd still plant the heck out of the little part of the circular drive.
Yeah, he just asked that, I mean, he
Because-
didn't want the royals back, is what he basically said. Now that they're gone, I don't want them back, I want trees. But there's no reason we can't have it.
But, no.
Because isn't Kalusha more of a bush than it is a tree?
No, actually, across the street, directly across the street, excuse me, I don't know the address, but they have a huge clusia tree.
The one that's set back on the right-hand
On
side?
the right-hand side, yes. Now, there are two, and given that he wanted a ficus with that look, I pointed to the clusia because it's got a similar look. It almost sometimes has these little aerial things that hang from the trunks, similar to a ficus. Not nearly as aggressive and not nearly as messy, but, I mean, it does get fruit. Two kinds of clusia. One's a clusia rosea, which is the tree, the pitch apple, and one is the clusia gadaphora, or gatifera, which is a small leaf clusia, which you see everywhere as a hedge.
Yeah.
So there's varieties. They can be, we use them as, if you're familiar with a ligustrum tree, we'll use the small leaf clusia and train it to act as a ligustrum, multiple trunks, trim it up, manage it, the canopy and so on. So It can be tree. I just, you know, I just didn't think it was prudent to put an aggressive root tree in that narrow area.
Okay, so the major difference in your color plan that you had up a minute ago would be you're gonna drop some royals in there, but still keep the colocea and the sea grape trees, and you're still gonna keep the gumbo limbo in the corner on the other side?
Yeah, we can do that. That works with the existing cluster of royals as it is. We might drop one of the two trees in here just simply to respace these so we can get the 1, 2 royals in here. And then we have room to put a royal on this side without having to.
So that would be 3 royals, even though technically he took down 2 royals.
Well, I think the issue is, balance as well.
Right.
Yep,
So, if we do it here, I wanna do it here.
right.
And I don't just want, I suppose we could just do one in the middle and one on the end and still get 3. I would rather do that than have this 2 and 0. I'd rather have 1, 2, and 3. I can propose it to him either way and see which he would prefer.
I don't know if you like that symmetry, meaning having just a single one in the island, so to speak, or the,
Yeah, the island is, the island isn't huge.
yeah, it's not.
The island isn't huge, so, I would probably be more apt to be able to keep all 3 trees and poke a royal palm up here, and then for sure one down here.
Yep.
Than I would to be able to put 2 in here. I'd need to probably take a tree out in order to do that.
Well, I can see that, as long as the symmetry with the road, I think one of the things about that road is that those royal palms they're relatively evenly spaced as you go down the south side of that road. And as long as that, works with what you need,
I could check to see where you
and,
can join the property.
and you can make a presentation of that, obviously, we're not trying to destroy you here, we're trying to.
No, I
Yeah.
understand. It's a look that's established. And
Yeah.
I will,
Maybe,
Without
maybe a
speak-
presentation of 2 trees there and 1 tree there, and then 1 tree on the east side,
Sure.
on the corner.
I will certainly relay this information to my client. I'm not gonna tell you, I can't tell you that, yes, we're willing to do
Yeah.
it, we'll come back, but
Yeah.
I'm sure he would be.
And you may be able to create his canopy of his driveway a little more that way without 2 big royals in that center section.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So should we ask them to come back to us briefly with the?
With
could
a
you come back in
proposal,
30 days with a brief proposal to us?
That doesn't put too much work.
Could we
So I'll go
defer it to staff in the interim? The house is getting very close to where you're gonna start bringing in the landscaping, aren't you?
Yes.
Are we gonna hold you up if we make you wait 30 days?
Possibly, I would have to confirm that. I would have to confirm that that's the case.
allow them to landscape the back of the property and just leave the section for the road?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the most critical, would be accessing the back before you lose access.
Okay.
So, I think the front can be done, it's gonna be done last anyway.
That's a good idea that maybe staff could handle it to help with the processing.
In terms
That's fine,
in terms of doing the work and proposing the 2 options, we can have that done in a week, that's not a problem, but for you seeing it formally together,
Well, we only meet monthly,
Right.
so we don't know
Exactly.
necessarily want to hurt the applicant by waiting 30 days. If a reasonable plan comes to you guys, I think you get we want some of these royals back. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
clear.
Is the board comfortable with the idea of putting 1 in the middle and 1 on the east side? If
well,
that-
what I'll do
if
is
that's
check,
what
I'll
they-
check the rhythm of the trees
Okay.
going down the street. And if we can make it look right, only doing what you just said, we will, if not, we'll have to add the other tree.
But if the board is good with those 2 alternatives, still gonna have your shade type trees
We are.
in the island, then I don't see why they can't just bring
No,
it back.
I think
to the
what made a
staff.
major change under the approval was the removal of the royal
Right.
oil. So
Yeah,
now
we
if we're
want
talking
that.
about replacement of the royal, it's probably a minor change that we could deal with after that one.
Is that okay with everybody?
That's fine with me, I mean, I will defer to Greg.
Okay.
Could someone make a motion to that effect? It's probably not what we have here.
Not the same.
I'll make a motion that the royal palms, which were removed inadvertently, are replaced with either a replacement of 2 royal palms in the center and 1 on the east side, or potentially 1 royal palm in the center and 1 on the east side, as long as the flow of the street maintains the same character.
I second that motion.
The only thing I would add to it is, do we want to specify a height so we don't get some little puppies in there that don't do it?
Right.
Well, I was just gonna mention, we'll do our best to match it, but sometimes given the availability,
Correct.
we'll get as close as we can. I mean, we can certainly once I find out what's available, we can certainly let staff know and they can run it by.
Maybe I'd say matching in height.
Yeah,
Something to that, matching in height to the,
Matching as close as possible, because those other trees were huge.
Yes, they were.
okay, moved and seconded, Rita?
Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
Mrs. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Roach.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move back to staff's okay with covering the staff. Any other items by members of the board? The public? No. No? Okay. We are adjourned.